test.
Okay.
Whoa. Crunch goes the spinity.
Yeah. Scared.
Yeah. It's not good. It's better than good. It's great. It's like log.
Oh, I shouldn't.
Yeah, we might get a copyright strike for the log song. North of Fox, welcome. You know what? I'm just going to stop this Timatron thing from displaying. Countdown. Boom, be gone.
This?
Sorry, which?
So magical.
I know. Just pushing buttons and things happen.
On your phone.
I know. How big of a burger am I gonna fry? Oh yeah. And you should be pumped to see this. Today is gonna be extra super duper special. For realsies, yo. Oh. While I'm here, I can show you what cleaning my cast iron pan after a couple of days looks like. I had some fried bits in here, so I'm just wiping this down. Like,
wow.
When I say if a cast iron pan is seasoned well, it's pretty much a non-stick pan. I wasn't kidding. That well was for the pan?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I would offer to season pans for people, but the shipping would be a killer. Like this has a couple of little scuffs in it. And the seasoning you can see, I'm just going to point it out. It's wearing off a little bit here. There's 6 layers of seasoning, but I mean, humble brags, right? It's pretty good. If I wanted to be super duper thorough and clean the heck out of it, like that's almost spotless right now. And that's me pressing down pretty hard. I could rinse this with some water and then very quickly put it on a hot stove top just to steam away all the water, and it's not going to rust. That's the theory anyways. Again, that was, for anyone that was in on the discussion yesterday on my live tube, this is the result of something like 30 hours plus screwing around and seasoning, baking, and so on. I think it was a little overkill, but again, I'm not going to complain about the results. You can see on the bottom where the finish has scraped off. Yeah. But I mean, even the rest of the pan, like the bottom and the side, it's the same. It's the same seasoning, all the way through. Well, you know, Mariah Cat, if you guys come up here this summer, bring your pans. I'll happily season them when you're here. I mean, that's a heck of a good reason to come and visit. Yeah, while I am waiting for things to happen, I'm going to, I'll talk about the seasoning if anyone really wants. In the meantime, welcome everyone. We're going to get the show on the road because we have a few things on the menu today that take a little bit of time to prepare. The very first thing is we need to get our keto burger buns started. The keto bun recipe is a slight variation off of the Keto King bread dough recipe. So we're going to start off with our dry ingredients. I'm going to do a full batch just because I want these. Normally, especially on the non-keto recipes, I will do just a half batch because I don't want Mademoiselle Nouveau to feel too obligated to eat everything that I make. And with very, very, very few exceptions, I don't eat the non-keto stuff. Like in general, I never do. I did taste a little bit of the fries from yesterday, the potatoes. Yeah, like I had like a corner piece of the scalloped potato and the what are the potato pancakes? I was a little concerned the potato pancakes would taste burnt, and but the scalloped potatoes were really good. They were really good. Everything yesterday was really good. It's hard to go wrong with deep fried starch, right? We have 1/2 cup of oat fiber. All of these things I believe are available on Amazon, and I keep getting asked for what I use, where I get, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to see if I can... I tried it once before and it didn't work for some reason. I'm going to try to get the shopping list, set it up on Amazon. I might have to do the US Amazon. Most of my viewers are from the States anyway, so it should work. And get one of those affiliate things happening. Let's hope that I still have 2/3 of a cup of flaxseed meal because I've been sprinkling this stuff on a lot of things lately. Phil, welcome. Oh yeah, Mariah Cat, the potato pancakes, they were everything yesterday was really good. It's not a weapon. Oh, what was the other cool thing? Yeah, the Hasselback potatoes. Not Hasselhoff. They turned out really, really, really well.
Eating on the floor.
What was best eaten off the floor?
Hasselhoff potatoes.
I'm missing something in the translation. 2/3 of a cup of flaxseed. Uh-oh. 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 Remember what I said about not pouring things over in case you run out? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to run out. I have just enough left. Boom. That was very fortuitous. I hope I don't need it for anything else today. I don't think I do. 1.5 cups of Vital wheat gluten. And this is one of the weird ingredients because when you think keto, most people when they think keto, they definitely don't think about wheat being anywhere in the food palette for anything keto. But wheat gluten, as I've discussed a gajillion times, to be precise and not hyperbolic. Oh, look at that, 1/2 cup, perfect. I need to get one more cup because the total recipe calls for 1.5 cups of wheat gluten. Wheat gluten is a protein. So I'm not adding the starchy, carby goodness, some fiber from the wheat. I'm not adding any wheat germ. I'm not adding anything. Oh, brand new package of Vital Wheat Gluten. Anyways, TLDR is its protein. The amount of protein in regular wheat flour determines if it's all-purpose or baking or cake flour. Slightly different color, we don't care. 1.5 cups. All-purpose flour is something in the neighborhood of 9-ish to 10.5, 11-ish% protein. Cake flours are in the 6 to 8-ish range, and bread flours are in the 11 plus range. Typically, varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. I don't think there's any real industry standards. And the difference is, as you work the dough, as you work the flour with liquid, you're breaking apart those protein strands, and then they like to recombine in a stronger format, which is the gluten, which is a really strong protein chain. The more protein in the flour, the more likely it is to develop gluten. And we don't want stretchy dough in our cake mixes. It's okay for regular use, and we absolutely want it in our breads. And that's why the 3 types of flour are measured that way. If it sounds like the difference between 8 and 10% isn't a whole lot, and the difference between like 9 and 11 isn't a whole lot, yes, it's 2, haha. It does add up though. And if you work cake flour long enough, you will get gluten forming. You will break down the different strands of protein. And if you're really bored, take a little bit of cake flour in some water, just stir it up, make a little slurry, and leave it alone for a while. And it will autolyze by itself, and you'll see how stretchy and gooey it is. Which is, it's a kind of an interesting, I'm not sure if it's a hack, and I'm not sure if I should even be encouraging it. You can let the water do some of the manual labor of kneading dough, but you end up with a stickier batter or dough later that you still have to work some of the moisture out. But you will eventually get a really, really smooth, like a silky smooth, very stretchy, very awesome, very glutinous dough. It all depends what you want to do. Some people swear by just just making a mash with a bunch of liquid, extra liquid, and their flour, and then letting the water break down the flour, and then sort of kneading it itself. Oh yeah, Mariah Cat. The worst thing is when you're given something and then they yeet it on you. And objectively, the net effect is 0, right? But it's still a feel-bad moment. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Bastardos is right. So we have our oat fiber, flaxseed meal, wheat gluten. Need a whole bunch of salt. What am I missing that's funny in the chat?
I was at that when Mariah Cat says that, because it's,
Yeah. Need 1 whole teaspoon of salt. Here's one of the secret ingredients. The usual difference between a bread recipe and a bun recipe is the buns are usually sweeter. Usually, I find. That's what I prefer. So I'm going to grab a few tablespoons of powdered erythritol. Yeah, 3.5 today. The recipe says 3 to 4, optional. Optional, right? And then we have 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is, in my world, it's a real mixed blessing. This is the secret ingredient in the fries that we're making later. Without the xanthan gum, the fries, actually most of this meal would not be possible. 1/2 teaspoon. We're going to whisk this together, then I'm going to get the warm, wet stuff started. Whenever you're dealing with xanthan gum, you really, I can't stress this enough, super duper need to make sure it's whisked together so we have a nice even layer, nice distribution of the xanthan gum, because this stuff will gel up right away. It will clump up, and we do not want that to happen. We want to have a nice, smooth, consistent dough, batter. And when you're adding xanthan gum to a bowl of wet ingredients, sprinkle it across. Be very careful, just sprinkle it across while you're whisking it like mad. Those little discolored bits are the flax, so don't freak out if you see that. Well, don't freak out too badly. So, we're making a keto bread without almond or coconut flour or a whole bunch of eggs. What? What sorcery is this? I know, right? Now, here's where it gets tricky. Can't sing that song either. Hopefully this is all in screen. One of these days, dear viewers, I will have... What I'd like to do actually is have a tablet with some sort of a gesturing thing, Tony Stark style. Maybe taped to this cupboard, and a few more cameras so I have more room to work with. I try to not complain about it. It's not really frustrating as it is. Like it gets comical from time to time just because of how cramped I think everything is in here. But the reality is, I can make nummy food with using simple, well, reasonably basic ingredients. No fancy techniques, no gadgets, very limited space. What's your excuse? Because in all seriousness, I do my best to not use any fancy techniques here. I go for the rustic presentation, which is vlahosies for crappy presentation, because I don't want to be confusing things or intimidating, whatever the word is. I don't want people to feel self-conscious about their final presentation. The taste of the food is all that really matters. Yes, you can elevate the experience with cool presentation and mood music and pairing it with the right drinks and blah, 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 blah. We're here for the food. The food tastes good, the food tastes good. If the food looks better, you're going to have a better experience. But for me, trying to educate and share a bit of knowledge, I just want to stick to the basics. That's my excuse why somebody's Hasselback potatoes looked way cooler than mine, which they did.
That was more like...
That was totally showing off, by the way. But no, it was good. I do appreciate that.
hedgehog back.
Yeah, hedgehog back. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take a look at the Discord. There's a really cool picture of Hasselback hedgehog back potatoes that somebody made during the stream because they saw my hack with the chopsticks. They're like, "Oh my god, that's so awesome! I'm gonna go do it, but better, and show you up, Vlahos." I'm like, "What did I do to you?" I'm kidding. I have 1 tablespoon of instant yeast. This is not active dry yeast, this is instant yeast. So the nice thing about instant yeast is I don't need to proof it. I just have to assume that it's still alive. Normally, if you have yeast that's a little old, you should take a little bit with some warm water and some sugar, some sort of carb for it to munch on, and watch the little bubbles form. So if this stuff poops away, you know it's still good. I'm pretty sure this is good. So again, the difference between instant yeast and regular active dry yeast is the dry yeast, you need to activate it with some warm water and usually some sugar or honey or something, some sort of carb to feed the yeast. The instant, the stuff, yeast, I believe that the only real difference is these granules are smaller. And I think that's the only difference. The fast-acting Insta Mega Rise Turbo Sonic with an extra 200 rings style of yeast works like instant, but you really can't get your dough to rise more than 2 times, usually not more than once, which is why I try to avoid it like the plague, because I do like the option of letting my dough rise sometimes more than twice. But for commercial use and for some recipes, you need that fast-acting, fast-rising instant yeast, and that's what it's for. Because that stuff will it'll activate, it'll start farting up a storm, but you can't keep that process going. I need 1 cup of warm water. Warm, not hot. I'm going to whisk all this together in a few seconds. I need 2 tablespoons of softened butter, which I did not prepare in advance, so I'm going to do that right now very quickly. Butter over there. Maybe I do have some softened butter ready to go. Softened. I have some room temperature. Oh, that yeast. Love that smell.
That's a good question. North of Block said, so how does yeast speed affect the end result? Is it a consistency thing?
The fast acting or the double speed mega turbo yeast, it just speeds up the rising process, because normally this, depending on a zillion factors, okay, maybe like 5 or 6, but let's just call it a zillion, will take anywhere from an hour to 2.5, 3 hours to double in size. The rapid acting turbo stuff will rise faster. Again, it's better for a commercial application than it is for normal residential use. You had to crush an Alton Brown. I still do. He is one of the few people from the Food Network circle, the celebrity chefy guys, that I would love to go hang out with. Because I don't care so much about somebody with a wicked awesome technique. It's great to see it in action. It's great to see it in person. Much like Shania Twain, it don't impress me much. But to pick someone's brain who's done all the weird gastro stuff, who has just this wealth of knowledge and all this trivia, that's impressive. For me, anyways. Oh, and speaking of impressive knife skills, our teppanyaki trainer sent me a message this morning, and he is still all sorts of eager and willing to do the stream. So hopefully I can get my surgery scheduled sooner than later, so you guys can be wowed by Tommy's skills. Okay, honey. Yeah, I know, keto, right? This is pure sugar. In theory, in reality, the yeast is going to be going, oh my god, carbs, nom 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 nom. And it's going to be ripping right into these, ripping because it's farting. It's going to rip right into this honey and start eating it. What the net carbs from this honey is going to add to the finished product, it's going to be minimal. We have 1 teaspoon across 9 big hamburger buns. So as a fraction, 1 out of 9 is like, it's like a 1/9. Math. Not to mention how much the yeast will have eaten. Not to mention how much of the sugar will be consumed in the baking process. How much does it really add? I really don't care. I'm just going to call these buns. I'm going to round them up to 4 grams. Technically, it's 3.9 net grams of carbs just from the ingredients. Realistically, it's probably a lot closer to 3. But I'm going to round it up because that's how I usually do my calculations.
Fat fingers.
Oh yeah, the French fries. Banana balls, we're doing French fries. I will show you live what the fries look like when they come out of the freezer. Because you can make a big batch and store them in the freezer. Or you can make them fresh. Nouveau, who are you talking about or to?
Right, cat.
Oh. About what, Alton Brown?
No, it says your name right in there.
You're going to make me all embarrassed now. I need 2 eggs. So you know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to make some room here.
Just in case there's anybody out there that hasn't seen this.
Just in case there's somebody out there that has not seen. Mariah Cat, I do, like, I'm not squeamish. I'm not shy. I don't take compliments well. I really don't.
Bashful.
I get all sorts of bashful, and it's weird. Like, if I'm going to go out and do something and I know I'm good at it, and people go, ooh, that was awesome,
You're like, oh, pshaw.
I'm like, oh, pshaw. And it's not humble brags. I just don't take compliments well. Yeah. Okay, here we are. We have an egg. Oh, somebody asked me about the 2-hand. Okay, are we going to do this? Am I being challenged to doing 2 eggs at the same time? Have I done this on stream? I thought I did.
Yeah, probably.
Let me know in the comments if I'm doing 2 eggs at the same time. These are the farm fresh eggs. These ones are the crappy ones with the really thin shell. So it's probably going to be a recipe for disaster. Yeah, Mariah Cat, you trained the pets. You totally trained the pets, and you need to take some credit for that.
Yeah,
It's like having well-behaved kids. They don't just happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of conditioning, training, and like electroshock therapy or whatever the Mr. Spock use these days. Okay, here we go. Both cracked on the counter. Poke our thumb in, and the idea is we just pop the top like so.
Yay, you did it.
Guess what?
Chicken butt.
There's an eggshell in there. I know, right? I have to throw these out now. I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Freak out.
It's time for me to freak right out. I was hoping that I'd get some eggshell in there because these shells are really flimsy. I know there is. There's one right down there.
Yes. Oh, over there.
Yeah. I'm so happy now. It's time to freak out. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. Okay, so for anyone that I know, I can barely see it here. I'll 1 second.
Throw some more in for fun.
Yeah, I can throw some more in for fun. I'm gonna see if I can zoom in on my camera and show you autofocus out of blurry and then back into focus. A little too close. Okay, so you see that little bit of shell right there?
That's so tiny.
I know, I'm so lucky that it was there. Now, what I'm gonna do, that's what she said. Wow, she's so good for my self-esteem. Just in case we had more than that fall in, we're gonna throw in another piece or 2 of eggshell. Extra calcium, don't you know? I know, chaos is right. Now, if Phil were here, he'd tell me to like stab at it with my fingers, or maybe use some chopsticks, but I happen to have in my hand nature's very own eggshell scooper upper tool. And like magic, this will cut right through the egg white. Now sometimes you have to coax the eggshell along the edge, but you can do it with a cup much better than you can with a spoon or your fingers. And if you really want to save those few drops of egg white, you can pour them back out. These other two pieces of eggshell scoops right up. And here's where mind blown. I'll wait for that emote to catch up.
Kablooey.
Like, share, and subscribe if you like this kitchen hack. It's very effective. We can see that this yeast is already doing its thing. I love killing time. Sometimes it's really effective. One of the many reasons why you should always separate your eggs separately. Always put your eggs in a different bowl. For me, I use farm fresh eggs for the most part. Sometimes, rarely, but sometimes things show up in my eggs that I don't want. And I'd rather ruin one egg that's already ruined than ruin all my ingredients. Yeah. So if I was doing, like really I should have done this one egg at a time. Crack one egg, make sure everything's good, pour it in, crack the other egg, make sure it's good, pour it in. If I was separating egg whites from egg yolks, I would need another bowl so I could separate the egg whites. Like I'd need to crack the egg over one bowl and then start separating it over a second bowl to get the whites and then put the yolk into a third bowl. And then this would just be my temporary bowl just in case bad things happen. I got kitchen fairies to help me clean up at the end of the day, which is good. If you don't, get some. So those kitchen fairies are invaluable and rather sexy.
Aww.
I want to gently stir this whole mash until it's smooth. And then we're going to add the dry ingredients to the wet by slowly sprinkling it in while we're mixing it together. There's three schools of thought on mixing dry into wet or wet into dry. If you have a stand mixer or a high-speed mixer of some sort, kind of doesn't really matter if you're going to have the machine beat the crap out of this for you. Normally, sprinkling a bit of dry into the wet while you're whisking it, you're less likely to get clumps. When you're doing something like a pasta, a traditional pasta, you'll have your little Close Encounter Space Mountain with a little well dug out of the dry stuff of the flour. You crack your egg into the middle and you slowly pull the... Show me, don't tell me, right? You get something like this where you have a well in the middle. You drop your liquid into here and you slowly stir it in while you're picking out just the inner rim of the dry stuff, and you incorporate it and you slowly bring in some more and you slowly bring in some more. You just keep whisking it up and you slowly bring in some more and you keep repeating until you incorporate the wet with the dry. All three methods work just fine. Aww. Okay, so I have some of this butter is not, I mean it's soft butter, it's at room temperature. It's going to get broken up when I start whisking all this together, so I don't need this to be very smooth. I mean, if I really want, I could whisk this up a little more. kind of unnecessary, so I'm really not going to waste any time doing this. What I am going to do, though, is slowly start incorporating some of this dry stuff into the wet stuff. And it's always easier to just sprinkle a bit in. I'm stirring this together. I'm not whisking this up. I'm not trying to froth up the eggs. I have many cups of dry goods to incorporate. I don't want to spend half an hour doing this. If I was using a stand mixer again, it would take, I could just dump everything together. There's a few things that are interesting about this recipe. The first one is, normally when you're doing a dough, normally when you do a dough, you get your first ball after you knead it up, and then you let it rise, and then you punch it down, and then you form it, and then you let it rise a second time. With the keto bread or buns, you can't do that. You let it rise the once, so you shape it. You let it rise the once. Sour Girl, good afternoon. And that's it. And once it's fully rised, you start baking it. So somewhere very soon, my whisk is going to get absolutely clogged with stuff, and then I'm going to have to just get my hands dirty. Right about now sounds good. Just going to dump the rest of this in here. Going to clean out the whisk. With the normal bread recipes, you should flour your hands, helps things stick less, and you should not make adjustments of adding more liquid or flour. By liquid, I mean water in that case. All the time? I think all the time. For this, we really don't have any of those luxuries. If it looks like it's too dry, add a little bit of oil is where I'd go. Or some melted butter. If it's too wet, just keep working it. Work it and work it until the extra moisture evaporates. What kind of oil? I would recommend an oil that pairs with what you're going to do. You can use a neutral oil like any refined oil will be pretty good. You don't want something pungent. So regular, I really don't like saying this, just regular vegetable oil like canola or safflower or corn oil is probably okay. I don't like recommending those because of all the bad GMO connections. A non-virgin or extra virgin olive oil, because the non-ones are less flavorful. You want an oil that's more neutral. But when in doubt, use butter. Butter is great. Butter, clarified, or ghee, which is the same thing. Those are the go-tos usually for keto, I think, because nobody complains about more butter flavoring and things. Is the screen back?
Yeah.
Hooray. I didn't lose any time there, did you? Now we already have gluten in here. I still want to work all of this very well. I want all of the dry stuff to be incorporated. This kind of has the consistency of like a gingerbread cookie dough. I don't know if you'd want to dive into it right now, but hey, you do you. Yeah, Mariah Cat, I keep hearing that about folks that foster critters.
Foster critters.
They just end up adopting all of them. Which is good because, in a lot of ways, because the critters are obviously ending up in a loving home with parent or parents that know how to take care of the pets and all that. So that part's good. It's just a little awkward when you have 14 plus animals, and it gets expensive when those pets are older. One of my besties has far too many critters. Far too many critters. His vet bill is ridiculous. Yeah, I think he has like 14 or 15 pets. And it's all sorts of pets. A bunch of big dogs, bunch of cats, a bird or two, like a turtle, bunch of snakes, other lizards. I used to have a spider. Yeah, lots of critters. Now that the doggos and the kitty cats are getting older, the monthly vet bills are significant. Very significant. It's also tough for them to go on vacation. He and his wife, they live a little too far away for us to pop over and feed them, and I can't be away from my work for too long. Not to mention the crazy allergies. I love critters. I'm allergic to a bunch of them. I get used to it pretty quickly, which is kind of neat. Yeah, I'd love to feed his pets, but just not really doable. And they're like a 45-minute drive away, so to go out twice a day to let the animals out to pee and make sure they didn't eat each other, it's not really fair to the critters or to anyone else. And it's hard to find a house sitter with that many critters. Because I'm fine with feeding the lizards and the birds, and cats and dogs are easy to feed. I think the tarantula is no longer with us. I remember when he went to Europe. This is back in the mid-90s. Yeah, mid-90s. He asked if he didn't know who he could get to watch his place for a couple of months. And he said, he knew that I'd be happy to watch his place, and his biggest concern was that he had a monitor lizard, which are kind of totally illegal up here. And he had an iguana, and that was it for his pets at the time, and a cat. And he said, "Do you know how to handle these?" I'm like, hell yeah, just like birds. So I went to feed his monitor lizard. So I took the defrosted mouse pup, and I just ninja'd my hand into the tank. I perfectly lucked out. I totally lucked out. I grabbed the lizard perfectly, like around the neck, the way you'd grab a bird from behind. Picked it up. I had the mouse pup over its head. It bit into the mouse pup, tasted the blood, swallowed it, started squirming. I put it in its water dish. The whole process of feeding it was like 15 seconds. And Damon's looking at me in shock going, "How the hell do you know how to do that?" And I'm like, "It's like a bird. I've handled birds forever." Yeah, that was the only easy time that I had feeding that thing. That little thing was a monster. And when it reached up to bite the mouse pup, it was trying to attack me. I'm sure it wanted to kill me. And it did every time I went to feed it. Fortunately, it only needed to eat like once every couple of weeks. I think I fed it a total of 6 times? Maybe 4 times. Anywho, gross lizard feeding story aside, we have a dough that's mostly kneaded. It's not super sticky. Things are pulling away from the bowl. We're not leaving any residue behind. I mean, I could try to pick this up with my fingertips. I'm not using nails to scrape this up. I'm just pressing down with my fingers. If there's any dried residue on the edge of the bowl, don't pick it up and force it back into the dough, because you'll get dried crusty bits that way. We want this to be nice and supple and smooth. Like, this kind of looks like real dough, right? Because it actually is. And the neat thing is, once I put this in a warm environment with a lot of moisture, magic's going to happen. So now I need to find my cooking container. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I want to try something. And that's DJ Nouveau's cue to say, oh, good Lord, please don't. Just stick to the recipe. Don't screw around live. Because it doesn't always work.
I'm going to try something. Oh, God.
That's when I say, I'm going to try something anyways. One thing I'm concerned about is the bottoms and the sides getting a little too brown. So what I'm going to do is cook it in this enameled casserole dish. I'm going to set up my 9-ish buns in here as best as I can. And we're going to see what happens. The Windex drink. Yeah, you're not supposed to drink that stuff. First things first, I'm going to weigh.
Maybe if the cheese was a white cheese with eggnog, but not cheddar.
We have 744. 744. Huh. Is divisible by 9, isn't it? Let's get a calculator. Calculator. 744 divided 9 equals. Yes, it is. Oh, when I try to pull this, that's the gluten in action. Holding it together. Crazy, huh? So what did I say, 82 grams roughly per ball? The trick is, if you add up the numbers, if the sum of the numbers is divisible by 3, then the whole thing's divisible by 3. Same thing works with 9. Mr. Nikola Tesla believed that 369, that sequence, unlocked the key to the universe because there was a geometric structure that you could make using 369 in base 10. As it turns out, it was just basic number theory that I need a whiteboard for this. TLDR was one of the few things that Tesla was incredibly wrong about. And his fascination with pigeons was also kind of weird. I often wondered if Bert from Ernie and Bert was a bit of a nod to Tesla and his bird fetish. This dough smells a lot like a whole wheat bread recipe. Go figure, because there's a ton of oat fiber in here. The really weird thing is I have, even though my place, I frequently complain that it's too warm, it actually gets cold in my kitchen.
Never.
unless the oven's on.
It's just you.
What, you're saying I'm a cold kitchen? It's not very flattering. Okay. Here we have 9-ish buns that are within half a gram of 82 on average. I want to do something like a 3x3 metras. Everyone needs one of them Ignatzes. If you fold the outside into the bottom and you don't see a lot of pleats, then it's good. If you see pleats, then you need to add more moisture. Rolling these out takes a little bit of skill, just a little bit of practice. So my hands are a little curved, and I'm just pressing down and just rolling this together. I'm just going to do it more slowly. So one of many things to watch out for is I want to lightly spray the top of these buns with some cooking spray, because as these expand from the yeast, the oil will spread out thinner. I also want to loosely drape some cling wrap on top. That cling wrap should also be covered in oil on the side that's touching the buns, so I don't want anything sticking. The cling wrap absolutely needs to be loosely draped because the buns are going to rise up. I don't care if these buns touch each other. If someone wants to make a really naughty sword fight reference, you're welcome to. Yikes. I will show you what these look like in just a few seconds. Yeah, I have a few mountains of banker boxes full of paperwork. Okay, so this bun is a little, some of these pleats are showing, so I'm just going to take this, sort of turn it inside out. Speaking of which, we binge watched the 8 episodes of the Boys animated thing on, was it Netflix? Prime. Rather hilarious. And very gory. That's why I mentioned the, speaking of inside out.
It's animated though.
It's animated violence, so it's... I mean, the special effects budget is obviously a little less. So here we have our 9 buns. Yeah, PVD, I don't know when it came out. It just came out. Literally, like, I think yesterday. Here I'm spraying these with just some good old-fashioned canola oil. Want to grab...
Yes.
Hey.
We did watch Invincible.
We did.
Waiting for more.
Waiting for more. So here I have prepared a sheet of cling wrap. Don't worry, this isn't done. Just for demonstration purposes. So this sheet is going to be loosely draped over, and I'm going to flip this over so the top part is going to loosely cover in oil as well. I don't want anything sticking to these buns. So I'm just going to pick this up, loosely drape this over. And this is loosely draped over just to prevent any airflow. And now, 10 minutes ago, were smart and set the water to boil. Fortunately, my water kettle boils fairly quickly. Hydrate. These things need to stay very hydrated, so not only am I putting them in a warm-ish oven, I'm also going to have a tray of boiling hot water underneath in the oven, and every half hour or so I'm going to top it up or put in a second tray of hot water. So this I'm just going to pop into the oven right now. Again, the cling wrap is here mostly, kind of entirely, just to prevent airflow from drying out the buns. I also want this to be in a super humid and slightly warm environment, just to maximize the rising effect on the yeast. I don't want it to be too hot because that'll kill the yeast. And I did leave my oven on a touch longer than I wanted. Okay, so while the water is boiling, this should come down in temperature. I'm going to get a food temperature kitchen heat safe vessel. Casserole dealio. Oh yeah, thanks Mariah Cat. So the next thing to do is I'm going to make the hamburger meat, and that's going to need to sit in the fridge for an hour. So that's going to bring us to about 7 o'clock, just 2 hours into the stream. The burgers take like 10 minutes to cook, the buns take 20 minutes to cook. Those can happen at the same time. And when that's happening, I'm going to make the French fries. I'll do the French fries before. I'll start making the fries before I do the burger and the buns, before I start cooking them, and we can have a long chit chat about the fries, and I will demonstrate how cool they are to have around because you can freeze them and save them for a rainy day. Today is keto. Thanks for the cheers. Today is keto burger, fries, and a milkshake. Wow. That was really weird.
Yeah, where do you keep going?
I did not do any of that. I don't think. No, I mean freeze the French fries.
French fries, Joe.
The keto fries, after you make them, before you cook them, you can freeze them. These ones curled up because of the paper that I had them on, but these are frozen solid. And these, as soon as I drop them into oil, will... Oh, thanks for the cheer, Mariah Cat. That's a lot of pretty cute corgos. I can just drop these in hot oil, and within a couple of minutes I have... Real Thurine, I don't defrost them, but you can just pop them straight in from the freezer. You know, Mariah Cat, you guys have... Yes, Real Thurina, straight into hot oil. Yeah, I know, right? Breaks all the rules. I know. And if you cook them long enough, like when they get past golden brown, when they get to a darker brown, they actually pop open, which is so cool. Yeah, Mariah Cat, you and Mr. Ignatz have near infinite bits in the bank, so if you want to dig into those tonight, highly recommend it. Okay, these are going into the oven. Oh yeah, the fire suppression and all that. A very generous viewer insisted that I put it on an Amazon wish list, which I did. But the bits that Ignatz sent towards the fire system is going to go to another safety item for the kitchen. Okay, so the oven is at about 115. Where on the wish list? It's on the About. Is it that? Nope. There it is. Nope. Stuff. Woo! Choo choo! Thanks for the hype train, Real Therina. That is awesome. Thank you so much. There's a very, very... Do I get to say very a third time? A very talented miniature painter who I was shocked to find out uses... Oh, Ignatz, thank you. 10 months. Wow. That's crazy. Thank you so much. Wow. Can't believe it's been 10 months. So this painter is he's a fantastic painter, and I was wondering what kind of brushes he was using because the writing on one of them seemed sort of familiar, but sort of really not, and looked kind of cheap. And anyways, I was just wondering what he used for brushes. And he said he used like discontinued dollar store brushes. They're not even real sable, like Kolinsky sable hair brushes, which are highly recommended for the miniatures that we paint. It's like mostly artificial brushes. I'm like, the work you do with crappy brushes, it's just not right. Like, you need better brushes. And I kind of got the impression that having a good set of quality brushes was not on his radar. So I ordered a set and they arrived earlier today, and I just, right before the stream, I walked over to a post office to drop them off. So hopefully in 2 weeks he has a brand new set of S-tier brushes. I'm looking forward to what he can do with them.
Hey, Rich is here.
Rich is here! And thanks for the cheers. I'll drink to that. Opa. Yeah, there's some people that definitely need the support, and I'm always happy to chip in what I can. So what comes around goes around. It's all good. But as far as me, I totally appreciate the support, guys and gals and pals. It's never expected and very, very much appreciated. Thank you. I'm going to get to burgers. And as long as that hype train is going, I will juggle raw meat. How's that?
Ew.
Ew. Maybe that's not the right incentive. Today, that bowl is too big. Let's see if I have a smaller bowl in here. Smaller, yeah, nuclear hot bowl. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Ignatz. Thank you so much. That's a lot of Corgos. Cap is going over here. Normally I like to use like a 50-50 pork beef mix, or like 2/3, 3/4 beef to pork. Today I have 1 pound of already defrosted beef, buff, shaya. And there it is. Boom! We have 1 egg. Again, magic trick time. If you can get your thumbnail in and you just pop the top, it should just pour right out. Again, if it doesn't work and you're trying to show off, you look like a jackass, so I generally don't do it. And these eggshells are really, really, really splintery, so shouldn't be doing that. But here we are, right? Here we are. The recipes, as always, as I like to suggest, are on the website. Today's recipes are all in here. They were actually up a few days ago. I'm trying really, really hard to get into that habit of having the recipes up in advance in case anyone wants to play the home game. So we have our beef, we have our 1 egg, we have 1 clang, a whopping teaspoon of salt. Oh yeah. Choo choo. Thank you everyone for that hype train. That is so cool. We got about half a teaspoon of pepper. Again, freshly cracked pepper is a lot more aromatic. It's a lot more pungent. Your mileage may vary. Unfortunately, I can't taste this right now because of the raw meat. I mean, I can, I shouldn't.
Yeah, please don't.
I'm not going to. I need 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. Vinegar helps to break down the meat and kind of makes it fluffier, makes it seem a little lighter. So off screen, I'm just measuring 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon of vinegar. There's an optional 1/4 cup of finely diced onions. I'm going to skip that today, unless Mademoiselle Nouveau wants some.
Yeah, sure, do it up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they're yellow onions, right?
Sure.
Or little, red. My mom used to put French onion soup in there.
Yeah, French onion soup mix is a classic. It also kind of helps with that breadcrumby binding thing too. So you get the flavor and the dry powdery stuff. A bit of a desiccant that's going to absorb some of the moisture and hold everything together. This onion was already loosely prepped for shredding. So this is all I'm going to put in. I'm just going to give this a really, really quick dice. The first few layers that were left were already pre-cut. When you're dicing veggies, keep the tip of your knife in place. Make sure this is on screen, and just up and down, up and down. I'm not getting anywhere near the business end of the knife. Larger cutting board is always safer. I'm not going super fast because I don't need to. It's not a race. And I like keeping my fingers intact. Without my fingers, I cannot do Bribe the DJ. And then Brian would be a very, very sad streamer.
Yes.
On the Amazon wish list are some, I think there's a scraper in there, which I sorely need. Why I have not bought one all these years is a great question. And 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. This stuff. Worcestershire.
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 Oh,
Worcestershire.
W-O-O-S-T.
Worcestershire.
Yes, Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. I'm such a brat. I'm gonna measure this on top because I know I can't really spill this. It's I have to shake it to get some. I have to shake it to get those little dribbles out. That was a guy thing. That's terrible. It's terrible. Shame on everyone. Shame on literally. You know what? I need to add a Worcestershire to the mix, the recipe, the ingredient, the shopping list. And I want about a 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs, and I just conveniently happen to have this keto mix, which is almond flour, oat flour, some psyllium husk powder, a bit of salt, bit of pepper, a little bit of paprika, and strangely enough, it really, really, really simulates breadcrumbs. I think I have that in the description somewhere. Let me check. If I don't, I will add it. I know I did that a few weeks ago. Oh, it was on the meatloaf stream, yeah. It worked out surprisingly well. Oh, Real Therina, 5K, that's awesome.
what?
5K bit badge. Woo! Okay, so from here, we get our hands. The claw. Worcestershire, that's it. It doesn't matter if the onions, if you see the occasional bigger piece that's like this size, and that's not particularly big, but this will shrink a bit when the liquid comes out. The flavor is going to be baked into the meat. You're really not going to taste this. This isn't going to be, it's not going to throw anyone off. If you see any large pieces of onion though, chop them in half. On my About page, you will see a picture of me with my friend's burbs. And those burbs are the cutest. And sometimes, very rarely, they have this very melodious chirp to express just how happy they are. And for me, like, it really is music to my ears. I can listen to those girls just happily tweeting all day long. It's the softest, most soothing, mellow sound ever. It's truly a joy to listen to them.
I don't hear that. I just hear the screeching and the squawking.
They're really freaking loud. So when I call my friend at his house, I know that he's home because all I hear in the background is super loud. but they're adorable. One of them is fairly well trained. I can get it to poop on command. One is potty trained, so I bring it over whenever I house sit for them. I can bring one of the burbs over to the toilet, and once it's over toilet, it does its business. It's a pretty smart burb. The other one needs to be on the ground, but you can put it on some newspaper, put it down, just put my hand over its head, say poop, and it usually poops. So they're fun burbs, super cuddly. Golden cheeked conures. So here's the burger. This is gonna hang out for an hour. Whether I form this into patties now or later, I don't think it makes a difference. Some people swear that the egg loses its elasticity if you chill it like this. I really don't find it to be the case. So I'm going to wash my hand, cover this with some cling wrap, and then we're going to get started on the fries. The reason we chill the meat for an hour is we want to keep it food safe for temperature. We don't want bacteria to start reproducing like mad in a warm, humid environment. But we want those flavors to disperse throughout the whole mixture. Like, we don't want crunchy bits of onion. We don't want big surprises of like giant cloves of garlic. Oh yeah, and you can throw in whatever spices you want into here. Like, normally I would be throwing in a good tablespoon of Greek oregano, some garlic powder. I would totally Greekify this. Apparently, we're taking a break from the oregano for a week.
Yay!
I don't know why or who suggested it, but apparently I agreed, just to keep the peace. Yeah, I have no idea who suggested it or demanded, I think is the requested that I take a bit of a break from the oregano. I'm just teasing. Like I usually do. This is going in the fridge for about an hour. About an hour. Just gonna check the time. I did not set the clock. Let's see how warm and humid this is. Okay.
You probably would have put oregano and ice cream in.
Oh, oregano ice cream. Don't mind if I do. Oh, speaking of oregano ice cream, one thing I should do right now is prepare my science experiment. I know I make it sound so appetizing. For the last few weeks, I have been toying with, let's hope that nothing crashes over here. Whenever I touch my cables, there's a non-zero chance of bad things happening with my cameras. PVD, you know why. It's the dreaded Logitech C920. I'm really hoping that in the next couple of weeks I can buy a 3-pack of Mevos, like the new camera Brian got for the dungeon, for the bunker. And those are self-contained IP cams with a 6-hour battery, so I can get proper mounts, set them up everywhere, and control each of them separately through an app, and I won't need to worry about any cabling. I just literally turn the camera on, hook up the mount to wherever I want in the kitchen, so one facing me, one facing down, one facing across. The one that's facing down I can move above the stove, have 3 awesome cameras that I can place anywhere, maybe one up behind me so we can see what's happening on the stovetop if we don't need something on the cutting board level. And all of the sound will be synced up, and it's going to be pretty epic. We'll see if it's in the budget. Hopefully, one of my viewers hits the lottery and sends me the 3 cameras in the mail. Otherwise, I'm going to see what I can do. This camera setup it's functional. I just don't like it. So this ice cream, yeah, Mariah Cat, it's not on the list. They're like 400 US each. And I want to get. I think the 3-pack is it's 1,000 or 1,100 bucks. US, and then there's shipping, and then there's some cabling and some mounts and so on. I'm not going to put stuff like that on my wish list. I don't know. I've seen music streamers that say they need a new laptop because their current one sucks, or they need a new controller because their current one isn't working, and they have this goal that they're building towards over months. And I totally get that, and I'm not begrudging anyone for asking for a bit of a focused support. I just have a hard time asking people to buy me 1,500-1,600 Canadian worth of cameras. So this recipe is interesting. We have chia seeds, and I'm actually going to grind these up before I forget. I'm going to grind them up in this blended form. Chia seeds are really, really interesting in how much water they absorb and how quickly they gel up. So I think I did something with the chia seeds a week ago on the stream. Yeah, I realized that I could use the chia seed. You can use chia seeds soaked in a liquid as a banana substitute. Yeah, so I'm gonna, just to get rid of any possibility of crunch in the texture, I'm gonna grind these up. So I have 1/4 cup of chia seeds. Yeah, North of Fox, it absorbed the water really quickly, and then what's really cool is I incorporated that into whipped cream, like a heavy whipping cream with sugar and some flavoring. And every time that I've made it, I needed to add more and more flavoring, and then it just ends up being this really, really cool topping. And it's just a variation of the original chia seed pudding. And I think there's something else that can be made with it. And I was thinking, if I'm making something like an ice cream topping, and milkshakes are just some sort of liquid base with ice cream, for me it was kind of a no-brainer. I should try to make that's my wired for engineering kind of brain. And I thought I could take something like this and just mix it together and probably make something like a chia seed heavy whipping cream milkshake with no real effort. So I'm going to mute the camera for just a minute while I grind this up. And that's it, just a few seconds. I'll ground it up. Hopefully I don't mistake this for pepper at some point. I had at one point acquired a Ferrari, I think it was from the 60s or 70s, wooden spice mill. Yes, that Ferrari. By acquired, I mean stole from my sister, and I think she spotted it and repossessed it. So in case she's not watching, the next time I'm over, I just kind of want an old school spice mill grindy thing. So there's a few bigger pieces left, but I really don't care. The bottom is very, very fine. I'm going to take 1 and a little bit cups, I think it was. Yeah, that's true. I had a Ferrari repossessed. I guess that's bragging rights. I never thought of that. That's great. Oh, crap, so I was going off my old recipe from Brain. It's supposed to be 1 ounce of chia seeds. I gotta weigh this now. Oh. I did some mathing and I realized that I need to adjust the 1/4 cup to something a little less. So here we are. So depending on who you talk to, how many grams in an ounce? Like 28 and change. If your dealer is friendly, it's 29 to 30. It's always a drug thing with me. Don't worry, I'm going to use this later. So now people are wondering, what exactly is 1 ounce of chia seeds in cups? I think it's 4 tablespoons. That's 60. It's going to be like 3.5 tablespoons, I believe. Let's find out. Okay, let's find out. Let's do this live on screen. So I was thinking about 3.5, right? 1, 2, 3. That seems about right. To this, I'm going to add 1 cup of super duper warm water. This water is dang near boiling. So I'm cool it down a little bit. So now it's just super duper warm. This doesn't whisk together particularly well because the chia seeds float. But I am going to play with this for a little bit just so you can see what happens. It's kind of neat. Just want to get these chia seeds at least wet, top and bottom. Shame on everyone. We're going to give it a couple of minutes, and then we're going to see just how much this gels up. One thing that I wanted to put in the milkshake was some ice cubes that I was going to crush up, not super fine so it turns to liquid right away, but something more like Slurpee crystal sized, just to give it to simulate some texture, some volume, without it becoming watery. So the milkshake has to be made, it's the very last thing to make, and it has to be done right before serving. I forgot to make ice cubes, so I just put a tray in right before the stream. And if those ice cubes aren't frozen, what I'm going to do is, instead of a vanilla milkshake, I'm going to go with a strawberry milkshake because I have frozen strawberries. which should work. Well, let's find out. The chia seeds soaked in liquid is the banana replacement in my friend's banana bread recipe, which I posted on the Discord. And by my friend's recipe, I mean it's the recipe they found online. I haven't made it myself. I haven't tweaked it or touched it, but I've eaten it a bunch of times, and I don't think it needs any tweaking. The only part about the recipe that I inherently don't like is that he uses commercially made keto chocolate chips instead of making his own. I'm pretty sure I'd let that slide. They are a little expensive, the keto chocolate chips. For how often I'd use them, I don't know. I'm probably better off just buying them. So you'll see that this is already gelling up. If I hold this from the side, you'll see just how much, from the side, how much liquid is left and that the chia seeds aren't floating anymore. They're fully incorporated. Goopy. Spoiled ferals. I'm going to take a peek at the buns, and then I'm going to get started on the French fries. I really shouldn't be moving these around, but this is what the buns are starting to look like. You can see they're poofing up. They smell like real bread. They smell like whole wheat kind of dough. So these are going back in the oven. This keto bread recipe, it's pretty solid. I take no credit for it. There's this dude from Australia, Keto King. He popularized it. I bring this up just because it's kind of funny, but in the keto community, there's some drama about he stole it from someone else and took credit for it. At some point, the person that made almond flour gets the credit for everything, and everything after that is just straight up theft, I guess. The keto cooking palette isn't super deep, it's not super complex. Because, I mean, like, in general, you have almond, coconut flour, you have some sort of oil, you have eggs, salt, pepper, xanthan gum is a big one, psyllium husk powder, cream, cheese, bacon, of course, that should be number one ingredient, just like rando meat, cruciferous veggies, sour cream yogurt, the occasional tomato, and that, my friends, is about 95% of everything that I eat when I'm on keto. Like those 10-ish ingredients. I hope I mentioned eggs in there. And with that, I can make everything from pizzas to waffles, pancakes, oh, and of course my keto sweetener. Strawberry shortcake. I can make all sorts of cakes. I can make brownies, cookies, sweet roll things, fat bombs, ice cream, French fries, burgers, bread, you know, whatever steaks and fish I want, any salad I want. So yeah, from that basic palette of like 10, 12 ingredients, there really isn't a whole lot I can't make. So for people to say, you stole that recipe from someone else, yeah, maybe. Sue me. I'm going to add this pot of freshly boiling hot water to the tray that's underneath the buns, just to help keep the temperature and humidity up. The oat fiber and especially the gluten really want to soak up the moisture. I want the buns to be as moist as possible. I want the area to be fairly warm and humid. The yeast is also going to like all of this. And when I go to actually start baking these, I'm just going to turn the oven on and slowly bring the temperature up. Which is much more in the style of your sandwich shop, like your Subway or whatever, your Subway buns that are freshly made that are proofed. Because the dough gets made, they get proofed, and then they slowly raise the temperature, and then they just bring those buns up to like 250, 270, and they cook them at that temperature. That's what a lot of the places do. So their proofer, that's where you let the dough rise, doubles as their oven in a lot of these places.
Nice. Sir Thomas McFluffy Butt.
Sir Thomas McFluffy Butt, that's a fantastic name. Aww. Yeah, PVD like a foot long sandwich, Subway, like a sandwich place bun. They'll mix up the dough, they'll fill it in the tray that's in the right shape, and then they will, I don't know, like a Subway Royale with fromage. I don't know.
A Metro fromage. Metro Royale.
A Metro Royale with fromage. Okay, so our chia seeds are doing their thing. I'm going to get to what's possibly the spotlight of today. What I do need to do though is find a pan. Now, this is the oil that I used for the last couple of days. I'm just going to get some fresh oil in here. So somebody asked what I do with my old oil.
Yeah, that stuff's done.
This stuff's done. So I'm just going to dunk it into this container, and this is going to make sure I wipe the side off so it doesn't get all over the element. And start another grease fire.
Please don't. The fire extinguishers aren't getting here until
Later.
14 to 20 seconds.
Oh, wow.
To a very generous friend.
Aw, thank you. Apparently I'm not going to burn myself to the ground anymore. That is awesome, thank you.
So please don't flambe anything until...
So apparently I'm supposed to flambe everything?
No. You don't recognize negatives, do you?
No, I'm a very positive person. Okay, so this is me for a serious note for a rare time. Like mental health is really normally not a laughing matter, but in my case I can poke fun at myself. I'm still wired very literally. I get humor and sarcasm. Like, you all know this. I hope, anyways. But when I get asked questions in the form of a negative, it really freaks me out because I have a really, really hard time processing it. I get what the context is, but when somebody says, do you not whatever, noun phrase, like, A, it's a passive-aggressive way of asking a question. It's usually asked by a complete asshole. Secondly, I don't know how to answer it because no matter what I answer, it can be taken completely out of context, and usually is because that person is a raging asshole, usually. I will give an example. Do you not know how to flush the toilet? Like, do I not know how to flush the toilet? Yes, I do not know how to flush a toilet. Wait, yes, I do know how to flush a toilet. No, No, I do know how to flush a toilet, or no, I don't know how to flush a toilet. All four answers, if you look at the logic truth table, and again, that's what I'm wired to do.
You stopped beating me. When did you stop beating me?
Have I stopped beating DJ Nuvo? Nope. Sure haven't. See, I prefer those questions that are straightforward and obvious, and there's no fuzziness. It's a closed question, not a problem. She's fine. I mean, I don't know how to add the black eyes to her. I shouldn't even joke about that, to her avatar, but yeah. So once in a while it comes up, and sometimes I will say it, and it's like I know syntactically and contextually it's the proper way to ask the question, but without diving into the whys, it's sometimes it seems a little hypocritical for me to ask things in the form of a negative, unless I'm intentionally being stupid, like it's for dramatic effect. But yeah, I man, those questions as a negative, not good with them. Not good with them. I've been accused more than once in my life of having a lot of skills, but that is one skill that I really don't have, is processing questions in the form of a negative. Kind of a specific skill to not have, but here we are. I have a frying pan over here, which is I'm going to get some vegetable oil. I want to actually wash this with some boiling hot water because I know there's some oil on it, and I don't want to put that on a stovetop because I know it will burst into flames, and not in a cool way.
Not cool, man.
Not cool, man. So, Mariah Cat, I took, when I was an English major, literature major, in university for a number of years, being 2, that's a number, I took a bunch of courses in syntax, in linguistic structure, and semantics, which dovetailed really nicely into the courses I was taking about cryptography and crypto systems. Because nothing makes breaking a code, especially in a real language, easier than if you know what to look for and where things get used in context, regardless of the language. Super obscure skill to have, and computers do that kind of work for us now, but it's really handy for like cracking word puzzles in escape rooms, I guess, or tabletop RPGs. And you know, it's always nice when 14 years of post-secondary education pay off when I'm beating a module designed for 12-year-olds. Yeah, so I have formally studied the language of like the stuff that goes into language, and like even with computer language design, it was like it was a 4th-year course on imperative language design, where we would be working on natural language programming. So we would try to have subject, verb, object, like English, the structure, in computer programming. Sounds kind of overkill, maybe a little silly, but the final goal is to be able to program like that, and just like Scotty in Star Trek 4 Search for Whales, just talk to a computer and get it to understand the syntax. And it's not so much an AI computer robot learning thing. Okay, here's the total segue. I hate, and I don't use that word literally all that often, I actually hate non-imperative languages. My brain doesn't process them well. Everything for AI uses a non-imperative language. AI's neural nets rely heavily on graph theory, which is my prime specialization in the academic world. So it sucks that I'm not wired for the language that does the thing that's massively in demand that I completely specialized in. Because I could be making a lot of money doing that. Something I enjoy. Sucks to be me. Wah, right? First world problems. Well, calculus there's so much practice involved with calculus. Like, you have to know your trig identities or you just can't do it. And just like all math stuff, stats isn't math. It's a skill that you build over time, like an instrument or language. You have to practice it consistently until you master it, and then you can sort of leave it alone for a while. Like, I've done thousands of math proofs. Throw me a problem and I will give you either a direct or like an indirect, proof by contradiction proof off the top of my head in damn near any branch of math, because I've done all of them. I mean, most of them. And anyone that's studied more than a few branches of mathematics should be able to do the same thing. Okay, I will skip all of that and get back to the frying of the foods. Do you follow a mathologist? He just had a really cool video on proving the roots of 2, 3, 5, 7 are irrational geometrically. It's actually really pretty. And yeah, I still follow this stuff. I'm gonna get my fries started. The oil is over on this frying pan. It's on just under medium heat. And when I go to add the fries, I will rotate the camera over so you can see exactly what happens. But I need a bowl. And I think I'm only doing a half batch of the fries because I still have a few left over, and these are really, really filling. These are very, very filling. Where is my... There we go. So I need a half cup of almond flour. Normally the recipe is a full cup. Then I need a quarter, which used to be a half cup, a quarter cup of coconut flour. And North of Fox, if you weren't kidding about that proof, the tricky part about proving the root 2 is irrational is that you can't just directly go to it. You have to show that the fraction itself can't be shown as irrational. Like, there's this cyclical thing, and from, I think it was Euclid's original proof, he had to show by squaring both sides, like root 2 equals p over q, you square both sides, so you get 2 is p squared over, absolute value of 2 is p squared over q squared, so you get 2q squared equals p squared. You do the substitution, and then you still have to show that that isn't 0. Otherwise you have the wrong, you can't show the contradiction because you have bad math in there. So I have a quarter cup of coconut flour. So back to this.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. We need 1 tablespoon, normally 2, of xanthan gum. the original. Apparently, there's really funny things happening in the chat, and I have to keep flipping screens.
I'm just laughing because there's nothing wrong with the math talk. I just, I need to see it. I need visual stuff, not just talking in theoretics.
Yeah. No, I very much enjoy the math talks. And then I need 1 cup of very hot water. By very hot, I mean down here boiling. There was a course in it was like computational side of computer science. I think it was a 3rd-year course where we were just touching on ring and field theory, and the prof did not seem to understand eigenvectors or eigenvalues or what the determinant of an eigenvector of 0 meant. And I'm like, dude, every single question you've asked today can be answered with solving for the eigenvalue or the eigenvector. Like literally every question. Why aren't we going over that? Like, no, that's not how it works. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's literally how it works. It's kind of why it works and why it was done and why it was designed and why like real math people do this. I was a lot more polite. I tried to be anyways.
Didn't kick you out of his class?
Didn't kick me out of the class. I still got my marks. Every time that I handed in an assignment, there was the question mark about big red, show your work, and I would reply, I did. Yeah. It was a little frustrating for me. But I realized then that most academics, they learn more and more about less and less, like a more and more narrowed field, until you're doing a PhD, everything about the tiniest sliver of knowledge. So you can do a really, really deep dive into basically nothing. And what I saw was sorely missing, especially programmers in general suck with math. Mathematicians suck with talking to people in general, apparently. And instead of encouraging a breadth of knowledge so you could draw from different bases, people just wanted to dive into their own field. It's like when you're solving roots of a problem, Lagrange interpolation never came up. And I'm like, I don't care how many powers of how many variables I have to deal with, I can always force the plot to work. I can make it work. And computers do it really fast. We work on computers all day long. Why are we not doing this? And prof's like, Lagrange what? I'm like, not ZZ Top, man. Whatever. That was a math joke. Obviously hilarious. Yeah, no one's going to get it. North of Fox will get it. For the audience of 1. Yeah, basic Boolean algebra it's really handy, and I always thought it was neat that it was, I think I took sentential logic or Boolean logic in one form or another, an intro course at least 6 times in university because of math, a couple of philosophy courses, a related philosophy course, and some computer science courses. And everyone kept saying, this is garbage, we're never going to use it. And I kept going, oh my god. If you actually tried to apply this to the real world, it's really, really handy. And not just for doing logic puzzles or programming. You can be a killer debater. You can crush people. If you can deconstruct somebody's argument into Sorites and show why there's an inconsistency, you show the contradiction in what they're saying. I mean, not like anyone discusses things like that anymore. It's like, I'm right, you're wrong, and if you disagree with me, you're a poo-poo head. So I'm going to need 1/2 cup of very hot water, and then this is going to magically turn into fries. And it really is kind of magical. What's the time at? 7? Perfect. Perfect. I remember at the end of my first digital logic course, a whole bunch of people in my class said that was the biggest waste of time ever. We can't even use that in the real world. This was completely stupid. And I'm like, dude, you can build a calculator out of basic gates. It'd be tedious as heck, but you can do that. And you can use plumbing to build a computer, and you know how to do it. Like literally build an actual functioning computer with plumbing from this one second-year course. What the hell's your problem? I get people don't think like that. No, North of Fox, a lot really depends on the teacher, and if something really strikes a chord with or for you. So I've seen people in the past, they just had a one stump. There was this girl that I was tutoring in high school. I was in university at the time. I knew her from a friend of a friend. She was a couple years younger than me. She was barely passing non-university entrance math in grade 11 because she couldn't understand fractions. And I literally took a pie out of her fridge and I cut it up and I demonstrated what a pie was because she had no idea how to even describe what a fraction was. The next year she's taking university entrance math for grade 12 and she's acing it. And that was the only stumbling block, was she didn't understand fractions and she felt too stupid to go ask somebody to explain it. She just had this block. It had nothing to do with me being an amazing tutor or anything, which of course I am, but it was just recognizing where the lacking information was, and it was all her. Like she was a smart person, which is why I was so confused by how she was sucking so hard at math. But it's practice and it's work, and you know, just getting it in class and just being able to glance at the board and say, okay, I understand this, no problem. If you're not wired for it, you really have to put in more work to get good at it. And most people, strangely enough, don't like putting work into things that they don't enjoy doing. They tend to ignore it or completely half-assed it. Yeah, I totally agree that it's a terrible thing when people don't think they can ask questions, which is why I always try to encourage people. Don't be bashful, ask questions. Oh yeah, this stuff is really neat. You're going to see just how thick this goopy stuff gets. That's going to gel up dang near instantly. So already this has the consistency of like mashed potatoes. Oh, mashed potatoes! Interesting. So what I want to do is just break up any clumps and make sure that I get all the moisture, all the wet clumps to break apart, release some of that liquid so it can absorb the rest of the dry stuff. I still have to do sunny side eggs. I do. I've done boiled, I've done poached.
You haven't done omelets or scrambled?
I haven't done omelets or scrambled, and I haven't done sunny side up, so that's definitely on the list.
How about a souffle?
A souffle maybe, and then I will show the difference between the different style of omelets, like doing a French omelet where you're on a lower temperature, always moving the curds around, never letting them solidify, and then when they're still a little wet, that's when you form the final layer, and then you roll it up using the side of the pan, and you get your perfect French omelet. Easier said than done? Not really. Not really. I've seen a bunch of videos on people like bragging about how amazing and how hard it is and how much practice goes into it. I don't think so. Pretty sure after seeing me do it once or twice on screen, your first attempt will probably be a little bit of a disaster. The second one will be pretty damn good. That's my guess. Some things you have to try and screw up once before you can really understand what you did wrong. Oh no. Wait. Is the stomach bone supposed to be connected to the spine bone? I'm going to get me some parchment paper. North of Fox, dig in. Bon appetit. Thanks for tuning in. And if you want, tonight we have a special 70s and 80s edition of Bribe the DJ. Always fun for the family. At the 80s dance party. And that's happening in 2 hours.
You might want to put the exhaust on. Or open your bedroom.
So I need the fan on just for a little bit. Okay. So here we have our dough. I shouldn't have this dark spot in there. That should have absorbed better. It's weird. You can knead this together. I think this is going to be good enough though. What I need to do from here is roll this out. To something approximating French fry thickness. Now if you really want, you can build something like this, little guide. If this happens to be the thickness of fry you want, and use this to guide the rolling pin, and then this will force me to have potatoes that are the very consistent thickness. Some rolling pins, especially the pastry rollers for fondants, they come with rings on the side to control the thickness. It's overkill. Okay, so I'm going to just trim this along here. So this I'm just going to cut into strips. These are a little big. Close enough. I'm going to rotate the camera and you'll see the magic. Logitech, don't fail me now. Boop. The worst way to test your oil is to put a drop of water in there, because you're likely going to get a bunch of oil splattering around. So don't do that. When you're putting things in frying oil, try to lay them away from you, so when the oil splashes, it goes away from you, not towards you. That was already though. Do you mind getting me another roll of paper towel? Thanks. Frozen potatoes. Frozen. Straight in. Thank you. I have a double 2-ply of paper towel. Just want to make sure these aren't sticking together and they cook fairly evenly. Other than the size difference, the frozen one and the fresh ones are basically identical. This is the neat thing that happens. They pop open. I believe it's because the exterior gets crispy because of the whatever moisture is left there. It crisps up, it dries, and then when the wet stuff inside expands from the heat and the steam tries to release, it actually pops the outside like that popcorn. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. These ones are not frozen. I think it has more to do with the size of the fry, because this little one that was frozen, it's only happening a little bit, but these bigger ones, they're all going to pop. Golden brown. This French fry is done. Previously frozen, this French fry is done. And it just popped when I put it on the paper towel. So I'm going to very quickly do another batch. These little ones are just going to be the leftovers. Just throw these little potato turdlings into the oil. Yes, I call them potato turdlings. Deal with it. So this was previously frozen. This is very hot to the touch, but when I break this open, you see that it's actually fluffy on the inside like you'd expect a potato. I'm going to get this focus work a little better. If it wasn't for that slight gummy texture from the xanthan gum, these would be 100% perfect. And I think there's a way to reduce the effect by using a little less xanthan gum. If these were dipped in something, or if you're serving these to people that aren't completely sober, they probably can't tell the difference. They're that good. Here's the leftover from last week. These curled pieces curled up because of the curvature on the plate. These were straight. I'm going to throw these in after this batch, and then I'm going to be done with my keto fries for a few days. Fritter. The original recipe that I was doing with the fries didn't use coconut flour, and then I rolled it out with fairly thin with like Dorito nacho style seasoning. I tried frying them to make my own Dorito nacho taco chips. The taste was pretty close, but the oil got contaminated right away. So I tried baking them and it didn't quite work. So the seasoning is pretty close to the right flavor. I just have to find a better way to cook them, or I might just make really thin triangles, fry them, and then spritz them with oil and just completely baste them with the nacho seasoning. That might be the way for me to make my very own keto nacho taco Dorito thingo. Golden brown is really all you need. This is safe to eat raw because it's just coconut, almond, xanthan gum, water, salt. Okay, and last but not least, whoopsie, should have broken those guys apart. Well, let's see what happens. Ronnie, welcome. Oh. Welcome, Ronnie. Always good to see you on. Ronnie, keto French fries. I'm doing burgers, fries, and a milkshake, all keto. So as soon as this is done, I'm going to get the buns starting in the oven. And then I'm going to fry up the burgers, and while I'm doing that, I'll finish off the milkshake. I'll get the milkshake ready to be done last. And then I will plate it all up for Mademoiselle Nouveau and call that a day. And I think we'll be really close to the 3-hour mark for that. This whole meal is going to be about 1,500 calories and around 14 grams of carbs, depending on the toppings. So if somebody's one meal a day for keto, that's great. If somebody's worried about total number of calories and you're not doing one meal a day, do not make this. A lot of keto food is incredibly calorically dense, and one thing a lot of people miss with their keto food form is half the plate should be covered in veggies without a bunch of dressing on it, because the majority of the components are fat or protein, like very calorically dense items. And even if you have a small plate, if it's covered with a pound of steak, that's your meal for the day. That's not a snack, that's your food for the day. speaking of math, this is where a lot of people get their keto wrong. There's a thing called lazy keto where all you do is count your carbs, and the assumption is everything else falls into place, which works 100% of the time if what you're eating fits in a really, really narrow margin of variance of macros. So if all of the food that you eat is no more than 5% carbs, and you're looking for 2,000 calorie daily intake, as long as you're under 20 net carbs, the math works out. How often does that work out in real life? It doesn't. And people will use that to cheat. And the only person they're cheating is themselves. And then they complain all over Facebook and social media that keto doesn't work, or they're stalling, and they need to know what biohack people have in mind to fix it. And the answer is learn to count your calories, because calories still matter. And then there's the acolytes of keto that will say, well, you're obviously doing it wrong because calories don't matter on keto, it's just being in ketosis. Like, if you don't understand the biochemistry, don't try to tell people how your body works. It's pretty straightforward. Because there's all sorts of fudgery you can do with the numbers so that the numbers magically work, but they really don't. And my personal favorite example is you take a Big Mac and you cut it into 1,101 pieces and call that a serving each. So 1/1101th of a Big Mac, you get to round down to 0 calories. And everyone knows that 0 times anything is 0, so you can have 1,101 portions of this fractional Big Mac, and it magically becomes a 0 calorie Big Mac. Check the numbers, it works. And then when people say, well, you're just being ridiculous, of course I'm being ridiculous. So are you. Ooh, creamy avocado pesto. Yeah, Ronnie, I am going to do another moussaka at some point without the potatoes, just for keto. I need to put a bit of variety in my veggies. I was just saying before you hopped on that the keto palette is about 12 staple items for me, maybe 15. And I can make like 95% of what I eat with those 12 to 15 items. I don't care about the micronutrients, I don't care about the vitamins, because the trace minerals that I need, I can get from organ meat, which I probably don't eat nearly often enough. Yeah. But a good variety, especially a variety of fiber, is amazing for your gut biome. So that's something that I really need to focus on. Okay, but without further ado, we got our fries. I'm going to cover these, put them in a warmish area. Oh, I just need to wrap up the rest of the food here for the day. Oh, I need to focus on a better variety of fiber. Just mittens. Face full of steam. Okay, so here's our container of water. This I get to put somewhere elsewhere. Say elsewhere.
Oh, I'm so hungry.
These buns cook at 350. I'm going to raise the temperature to 350 after I remove the plastic wrap because it doesn't add much to the flavor. There's our keto buns. Good enough. And those need 15 to 20 minutes. Now it's going to be at least 20 because it has to come up to temperature. But those buns, I'm sure you saw, I don't want to leave them out in the cooler air. They've puffed up enough. Why, thank you, Real Therina. You'll notice I'm using the oven mitt to move this super hot pan out of the way. Now, if I was not like everyone else on the planet and the storage compartment under my stove was actually used as a warming drawer, I could keep my fries warm underneath the oven part.
Put them over the vent hole.
Yeah, I don't want to move anything right now because it's... Okay, I can move it over. Fine. I don't need that right now. Doopa-doopa-doo. So this is like, well, this is basically what I had from leftover. I had like a few fries left over. So there's 3 servings of fries. Like I don't want to serve more than 4 or 5 of these big French fries. They're incredibly filling.
Yes.
They are very, very filling. So if you're just mindlessly snacking on something, do not make these because it's dangerous. Tons and tons and tons of calories in there.
I don't think you could though, you'd be so full.
You should get very full. One of my friends seems to have a hollow leg or something, and he can just keep packing it away ad infinitum. I'm going to put a little splash of oil. Don't splash your oil. Mindful snacking? I think there is. I actually do think there is. When I first hopped on Team Keto, I was on a really, really high protein diet, and I had a hard time getting my fats up enough. And I had to make fat bombs and go out of my way to eat them regularly just to have enough calories of fat in my diet. And then I did some number crunching and I realized that cheesecake is the perfect keto food.
Oh, you haven't made that in forever.
I haven't made cheesecake in ages.
What's wrong?
What's wrong with me is cream cheese hasn't been on sale at Costco
No,
for a
that's
while.
true. I was teasing.
Okay. So now I'm going to here's my 1 pound of meat. We got all sorts of time. Unfortunately, I don't think I have any pickles for toppings for the burgers.
That's okay.
So I hope I'm not risking divorce here. Or eviction, whichever comes first. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up to a medium heat. Very well oiled pan. I'm gonna section this off into about 4 really big patties. So they're going to be about a 1/4 pound each.
You can flatten them out a little more if you can, so they're easier to eat them.
Sure thing.
Just a suggestion.
Yep.
My mouth ain't that big. Oink.
So these burgers are really, really, really moist from all that egg and Worcestershire, my Sharuna. The Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire. So here's roughly the burger. If we really want, we can put our little thumb imprint for biometric scanning. This is going to help the burger retain its shape. Thanks, Mariah Cat. Yeah, I forgot to move this over. I like taking them straight from the fridge. I don't want to risk the meat getting contaminated or the bio stuff. They're going to hold their shape fairly well. I've got my Keto crumb substitute in here. That's going to be a bit of a binder. Plus I have the egg in here as a binder. In general, when you're cooking meat, that's a good point, Ronnie. In general, if you're doing steaks or bacon or basically any meat, cooking it from room temperature keeps the shape better. In general, like, it's the better way to cook things. I ain't got time for that right now, so I'm just going to fry them straight from kind of chilled from the fridge.
Who cares what shape they are?
And these are ginormous burgers. So we have, I just loosely section these off into quarters. I want them to be roughly the same thickness. Also what she said. The thumbprint in the middle to keep, because the meat's going to want to bunch up, and if the middle is already thinner, when it tries to bunch up, it's going to even out more. This is more of a grilling technique than it is a stovetop technique. And if these are already at room temperature, it's going to make, it's not going to shrink up quite as much. Unlike jumping into a cold pool, because that's when you get all the shrinkage, right? I guess somebody needs to be 12 today, and it's this guy. I still need to do a barbecue stream, depending on with the weather, for 80s Dance Party's anniversary. We're probably doing that May 7th, I think. Depending on the weather, I might do a barbecue stream outside. Gonna go wash my hand. I'll be right back. When you're cooking bacon, May 7th is the anniversary. I think it's May 7th. Well, technically it'd be May 1st or 2nd was the real anniversary, but it's my Easter the week before. My Easter's on April 24th. And there's services that I need to attend the following week, so it's just not going to work for me. Plus, end of the month is always bad for me for work.
Smells good.
Yeah, it smells great. Yeah, Mariah Cat, I think Brian's going to be posting it on the Facebook soon. I need to hydrate over here. Opa. If anyone plans on being in the Winnipeg area, feel free to come on down. Be part of the festivities. Be a member of the studio audience. What else do we have? Oh yeah, so for meat and shrinkage and crinkling and wrinkling, if you take a cold pan and room temperature bacon, you can just place your bacon at room temperature across your room temperature pan, put that on your stovetop, let the heat come up, the bacon will stay almost perfectly flat. If the pan is slowly brought up to temperature, and then the bacon will magically stop sticking to the pan, and once it releases, it's ready to flip over. It works great, but you can only do it once a day, because after that, your pan is hot. Unless you have multiple pans, and then you have to cool down your oven or use a different element. What time is that? It is 19:30. Over here we have a very, very gelatinous mixture of 1 ounce of chia seeds. I need an adult, the fan is loud. Sorry. We have 3.5 tablespoons / 1 ounce of ground up chia seeds with 1 cup of warm water. And this is going to be the goop basis for our milkshake. Ray, DJ Crazy Chris, thank you so much for the raid. Woo! Montenegro, welcome. I only do a music stream about once a month. The rest of the time it's food or painting. So today we are making keto hamburger, French fries with no potato, and the buns are in the oven, and I'm making a very low carb milkshake. This whole meal will be between 14 and 1500 calories and less than 15 grams of carbs. Chris, how was your stream? The good people make streams. It's easy to have a good stream with good people. I'm lucky. I get good streams often. My people are really good. Shout out to all my good people. Okay, as it turns out, the ice cubes that I was worried about not freezing actually froze. So the real question is, am I going to make a strawberry milkshake and a vanilla, or just vanilla? Well, it depends on me, because it'll take seconds to warm it up. Okay, DJ Nouveau would love a strawberry milkshake, so I'm going to see if I can figure that out. Okay, I'm going to take half of this goop don't mind me, I'm going to change the camera in just a second once I flip the burgers, because then I will be making the milkshake and then the meal will be done. I know. Quarter cup of whipping cream. A little bit of my world famous vanilla extract. Cheers. And I need some keto sweetener, so I'm going to use about 2.5 tablespoons. This is powdered erythritol, just regular erythritol, but I powdered it up in my blender. So I've never made this recipe. I've been thinking about it for a few days now. I decided I'm just going to write it down and see if I can make it happen. I'm going to flip these over. It's a little well done, but oh well. These burgers are a bit on the large side. Complains no one ever. Okay, bear with me. I'm just going to turn the camera back this way. If the camera freezes, please yell and let me know. Perfect. So in this pitcher we have some ground up chia seeds that I soak with water. Turns into this really gross looking gel. This is a very, very excellent keto substitute for banana. This is the secret ingredient for making keto banana bread. It really sells that banana texture and sliminess. So I'm going to need to turn the microphone off for just a second while I pulse this drink up. Here we go. Microphone is off for that whole thing. Just saying the word banana and tasting it made me think that it tasted like banana. If I put some banana extract in here, and if I was a little drunk, I couldn't tell the difference. I'm going to put this back on the blender, just enough to puree the frozen strawberries, and serve it to Mademoiselle Nouveau. And the burgers are done in 1 minute. I'm going to mute the microphone just for a minute while I get rid of the strawberries, and I'll go serve it and see what she thinks. Interesting. Just going to take the burgers and move them off to the side. Well, don't ooh yet. You get to taste it.
Oh, I was talking about my iPad.
Oh. I thought you were oohing about the drink. And I have not made this before. This is my own recipe. I got a big old red straw. Let's see what she thinks.
Aw, thanks. Yep, tastes like strawberry milkshake.
Apparently it tastes like strawberry milkshake. I'm gonna try some and see if she's just being kind.
Oh, it's yummy.
The texture, yeah, it really comes across like something that was thickened with ice cream. Oh, holy crap. That is perfect. The chia seed adds a little bit of weird grit. I'm going to be hypercritical now. If I put a splash of banana flavoring in here and somebody said it was a strawberry banana milkshake, this would be perfect. So I need somebody in the comments to tell me that there actually is banana in here, and then I'm good. And then I will enjoy it even more.
Just pretend.
Yeah, I would definitely make this again. I might do something with the chia seeds just to make them a little less grainy. Might have to soak them overnight.
It's like a smoothie. It's got.
But it's like a smoothie milkshake, and yeah, this is really good. Look how thick that is too. That's amazing. Taste-o-vision. Cheers. Okay. Let us now check the buns. Let's see how close they are to being ready. Almost done. These buns are starting to brown up a little bit. I want to give them another few minutes. Hopefully you can see that because my hand's getting really warm. Chia. Yeah. I don't like to brag or anything, but that was really, really freaking good. It needs some work, but I think I have the makings of another winner here. I guess it's not really bragging. It's a heck of a start. Well, I'll leave it at that. So while we're here, spam. There's all of my links. There's the Twitch link, which you can look in your browser. It should be very similar. The dailybear.ca is where I put the vast majority of my recipes and all the archives. The Facebook group I post to semi-regularly. It's not just keto. On the Daily Bear, there's the cooking section, which has everything, and then the keto-only section, which is just keto. On the Facebook group, I put usually just highlights of the videos and some pictures. The Discord is where I've been doing the most of my social media communicating. I know I need to add Twitter and Instagram and whatever else the cool kids are using these days. Discord's fantastic. It's a great place for people to just drag and drop their photos. When I was making some potatoes yesterday, one of the viewers saw me do a little trick for making potatoes Hasselback. They went, "Oh wow, that's really cool. I'm gonna go make some right now." And then she posted a picture of it, and it looked fantastic. I'm like, well, gosh dang, that photo was amazing. So yeah, it's Discord's a great environment just to share things, and so far there aren't a whole lot of jerks on there other than me. If anyone has any questions about the cooking or the keto or the painting, feel free to ask. I'm on the internet most of the time, and I do have a section for Ask Me Anything, and I'll be answering those questions on the stream, either as channel redemption or just story time when I'm waiting for things like bread to rise or water to boil. I think I'll use them as channel redemption. The other channel points, the Euro points, based on viewership and subscription and bits and tips and so on. Sometime late this summer, maybe in the fall, I'll be doing another draw giveaway. Last year I gave away, it was something between 8 and 10 bottles of the homemade vanilla extract made with real vanilla and real vodka. I mailed these out to a few lucky viewers, and apparently people like it. So it was it's tasty stuff. Oh, the nice thing about this vanilla is at the end of the day, I just top it up with more vodka. There's 2 full vanilla beans in here, so at the end of the day, I just top this up with vodka, and within a few days, it tastes just like the original full bottle. Yeah, and some people won 2 bottles.
Nothing wrong with that.
Which is fantastic because both of you are awesome friends of the channel, and you guys have given us, all 3 of us, tons of support. So I'm really glad it worked out that way. I really am. Yeah, it's pretty. You gave it away, like the chili peppers. Yeah, it is pretty good, and it's super easy to make. I promoted the channel. Okay, I think these buns are really close to being ready. There we go. So this bun is looks like it's cooked. I'm just gonna slice it down the middle. Sorry about the super unprofessional delay there. That's the innards of a keto bun. Now, just to make sure that it's, edible, the only way to truly test to see if a bun is cooked is with some fresh butter spread on the nice warm bun. Normally, when I cook buns and breads, I will tell people on the stream, you need to let the buns rest. You need to let the moisture spread out, because when you cook things, the moisture tends to get clumped up in the middle. These buns are super moist. They rose in an environment that was basically steamed the entire time. These are nice and moist, and there's no clump of raw-ish dough in the middle. And by raw, it's not really raw, it's just loaded with moisture. And when you let the bread, especially for loaves, when you let it rest for a few minutes, that moisture disperses through the rest of the loaf, and then it's ready to eat, and you don't get this clump of this core it seems like raw dough, even though it's not. When you let the bread rest, you avoid that. Something very similar happens with steak, which is why you should let meat rest after you cook it. And there was one other thing, right? The smaller the bun, like a breadstick or a small dinner roll, you can serve straight out of the oven. But as you get bigger pieces of bread that have been cooked, you really should let them rest for a bit. So without further ado, I'm just going to test this for science, quality control. No, I'm not. So Mademoiselle Nouveau's trying out the bun, which she had. Yeah. So this is what the buns look like after cooking for a while. Brown buns. This thing,
It's like bread.
it's floppy like bread, holds together like bread. As far as I'm concerned, it's bread. The secret ingredient is wheat gluten. You see all those bubbles in there? That was the wheat gluten and the yeast doing its thing. Each one of these buns is something in the neighborhood of 3.5, well, it's supposed to be 3.9 grams, net grams of carbs, minus whatever honey was consumed by the yeast, minus whatever was processed in the cooking. So realistically, it's probably closer to 3 than 4, but I round things up. So now, without further ado, I'm going to assemble a burger, take a picture, and wrap this up. Oh, and I should do this on screen. I will show you what these look like. So in the casserole, it just pops right out, even though these were touching. They're not overly brown on the bottom. Every other time that I've cooked these, when I used a baking sheet, even with parchment paper, the bottoms were a little overdone.
Oh, these are perfect.
And I was thinking cooking them in the ceramic casserole dish would probably be a lot closer to perfect. And I think this is yet another one of the experiments that worked out kind of perfectly. Kind of perfectly. I'm going to get my bread knife. This is super duper hot. What do you want on your burger for toppings?
Lettuce, mayo, mustard.
One lettuce, mayo, mustard burger coming up. And of course, fries on the side.
Ooh, some cheese.
Of course. Lettuce, mayo, mustard, cheese. Cat, your friend that's no carbs, he's strict carnivore? I think I remember you saying that.
Vegetables. Vegetables and meat.
Yeah, one of these days I'm going to prep up and do strict carnivore for a month. Just cause. I'm not going to do that till I get another round of blood work done, just so I have a baseline to compare it to. And then get the blood work done after a month. Okay, we have mustard. We got mayo, but not Scott Baio. We got some fresh living lettuce. We got a giant burger patty. Got a big old slice of cheese.
Oh, we have cheese slices.
We have mustard, mayo, lettuce, big burger, big slice of cheese. Wish I had a pickle. Also what she said.
No, I'm fine without a pickle.
I'm going to cut this burger in half, or do you want it?
No, leave it with that.
And some keto fries.
And my shake is over here.
And her milkshake is over there. So, keto burger, cheeseburger, fries. I didn't do bacon. I don't know what's wrong with me. I haven't cooked bacon for 2 days. I think I might need to see my doctor sooner than later. There's something obviously wrong with me. Gotta take the snap a couple of photos.
What you want?
I'll be right back. I'm going to go serve this and see what the studio audience thinks. These fries do need a little bit of salt though, so I'm just going to sprinkle some on. Do you want some vinegar on there?
Yes.
Just going to put a little dab of vinegar. Okay, I'll be right back.
It's a Canadian thing. Oh, well, it's British too.
Sure. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Take a bite. Take a bite.
Will.
Oh my God! Take a bite faster.
Shush.
You're a shush. Oh, PVD, you've never had vinegar on fries? It's a very British thing.
I'm Canadian.
And Canadian. I prefer malt vinegar.
I like either.
Other one's fine. Yeah, what I did last week for the first batch of the keto fries, I made just a spicy mayo dip with, spices and mayo, spicy mayo dip. If I had sriracha, I could have put a little bit of sriracha in. This one I used a little bit of chili oil just for heat. Yeah, PVD, it's
Yummy.
it's yummy. Oh, the burger's yummy.
Yep. Nice and juicy.
Burger's nice and juicy. There's something
Buns staying together.
really nice about pan frying burgers. The bun is staying together because these things are solid. Like, this is a real, honest to God, wheat gluten bun. So there we have it. Keto burger, fries, and a milkshake. I think all three were pretty good. Pretty good. And conveniently, Mademoiselle Nouveau has not had anything to eat today, so that little snacko of hers, again, is in the neighborhood of 1,400 to 1,500 calories.
It's my one meal.
It's her one meal, and my guess is she's gonna have a hard time finishing it in one sitting. When I did the fries the last time, when I made the keto Big Mac last month, whenever it was, sometime earlier this year, those individual burgers were 965 calories. She couldn't finish hers. She had half of it because she was stuffed. She had half of it and then finished the other half a few hours later. So it's one of the nice things about the keto food. It's so high in fat, hopefully with fiber too, that you do feel fuller faster. Protein is also good for that. As long as you don't inhale your food and as long as you're drinking enough liquids so you don't confuse being thirsty with being hungry, the diet itself is kind of self-regulating for hunger. And since I'm talking about that, the biggest pitfalls, of course, are when you're just stress eating or eating out of boredom or eating because you're hungry or eating because you're thirsty. And one of the biggest tips that most people can get, oink again, someone's got to say it. Before you eat anything, have a bit of water, make sure that you're actually hungry. Just ask yourself, am I hungry or am I bored? And if you're hungry, eat. And if you're not, don't. And at some point, you will, for most people, you will be able to distinguish between your stomach saying, I'm empty, and your body saying, I need energy. And when you can figure out the difference between the two, that's the real breakthrough moment in taking control of your diet and part of the control of your health. Yeah, Ronnie, the half of your weight in pounds in ounces per day, it's a really good rule of thumb. Like, it's one of the few rules of thumb that I completely endorse. Yeah. I used to drink over a gallon of water a day, which really isn't all that much. It's 3.8 liters. Like, it's just under 16 cups. PVD, your body will adapt to it. You will get used to the electrolyte balance. And other than the initial couple of days of you're constantly running to the bathroom, your body will compensate. It's kind of neat. Our bodies are good for things like that. It's always good to be hydrated, and my voice gets dry and a little cracky after speaking for 2 hours, and I know better. I've been doing this for ages. I just need to drink water. Do you gain water weight? No. Your electrolyte balance will sort itself out. Normally when people start keto, they lose about 5 pounds of water, and that's because of the depleting of glycogen stores in your body. Each gram of glycogen holds on to between 3 and 4 grams of water. So as you deplete your few hundred grams of glycogen that's stored in your muscle and your liver and your skeletal system, the water that's attached to that glycogen gets flushed out. And that's why when people start the keto diet, within a few days, depending on how strict they are with the carb restriction, they'll feel hungover. They call it the keto flu. So that's when you should be taking in extra electrolytes, like Brondo. It's an excellent source of electrolytes. It's got what plants crave. You need maybe extra salt. Pickle juice is a crowd favorite. Gatorade Zero if you really need. Something to help rebalance your liquids. Because when you flush out 5 pounds of water, you're losing a lot of electrolytes that your body normally has. But as you adjust your intake for things like sodium and your water, your body will balance it out. It's just those first few days can be rough because you're actually dealing with a hangover or hangover-like effects. So when people go on a diet and they brag about, I lost 7 pounds this week, don't be a jerk and say 5 of that was water. Just congratulate them. And behind their back say they're an idiot. But always be supportive to their face. You'll gain water weight easier and faster if you take Keto Menudo. Like the band? Like with Ricky? What? I didn't think he was keto. If you increase your salt by a fair bit, you will pack on a few pounds of water just from retaining the water. There's nothing wrong with extra water. Oh, I did not know what that... Real Tharina, please post that on the Discord. I'm super, super intrigued. Why have I never heard of this? I'm all sorts of Mexican now. I got a freaking luchador mask in the next room. Thanks, Ronnie. I'm all sorts of Mexican now. Why have I not heard of Menudo other than the band? Somebody please educate me. Let me know what's going on. I'm missing out on something. Seriously, I always thought that Menudo was just the band. Michelada. Again, I need somebody to explain all of this to me.
See, he didn't know about vinegar on fries, and we don't know about...
Yeah, exactly. See, you didn't know about vinegar and fries, and I didn't know about Menudo and Michelada either.
We're sharing our cultural...
We are sharing our cultural differences. That's fantastic. I love you guys.
Cultural variety.
This is awesome. It's Cultural Appreciation Day. I should do a whole stream on head cheese.
Ew.
What's confusing is in Greek, head cheese means both like the jellied brain head cheese and hard cheeses.
I am eating.
So, and DJ Nuvo's eating. So it's always awkward when I go to an authentic place and something mentions head cheese, because I always have to ask, is it the cheese or is it the head? Yeah. I think on that wonderful note, I'm going to bid everyone much thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
And I'm going to find a raid. We are back on with Brian St. Clair in about 40, 50 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in.
Opa.
Opa's right. And who do you want me to raid till you guys come back? So, is it Amazon or wish list?
No, it's wish list.
Yeah, damn it.
Word.
Don't even know my own channel. So there's all my links. If anybody wants to support directly, there's the tip page for just the tip, and the Amazon wish list for stuff that I probably should have bought for myself a long time ago, but I haven't because I'm dumb. I have a real soft spot for a couple of content creators. Oh, Children of Produce is on. I need to rate her. Hang on. Fantastic artist. She's moved to merry old UK land. She does really, really cool stuff. If digital art is not your thing, I'll apologize now. Oh, PVD, just post it on the Discord. It's the last link there. Oh, what channel on Discord? You can post it under the food, or I need an adult under the food section, or even the general section. You know what? Take your pick. Surprise me. It'll be like whacking it with a piñata with my machete. That's what you use for piñatas, right? Machetes? Or is it other kids? I always get those mixed up. I am a silly boofoo. I'm hungry too. I want some food. Okay, we are off to visit merry old England, Children of Proteus. We're going to go see some fantabulous art, and hopefully I will see the vast majority of you back on 80s Dance Party in about 50 minutes. Thanks again, everyone. I can't stress enough how much I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and just being awesome, beautiful people. If you ever have any questions or requests or anything, send me a message, hit me up on the Discord. Please don't be shy. And be good. Opa.